guys, I just wanted to show you what we're actually looking at here with knotting. So this is an old amber teething necklace that my son wore for about 4 years. So you can see the knots in between each bead have pulled out a little. So the necklace is stretched over time, which is normal, but when we're knotting, we're looking at having our knots nice and close so that there's no movement in the beads. So see how those sort of slide around a little bit. So I'll just show you this one here is a new one. And the beads are nice and tight. So that's what we're trying to achieve with our knotting, is have the knots nice and tight up against the bead so that it's not going to have any play in those gemstones. So I just wanted to show you this one too. This is one from when I first started knotting. So these gemstones, you can see there's quite a lot of play there. Some of my knots are not very close, but that's how it is when you're learning. So that's what we're trying to do today with our beading tool, is just get our knots nice and close up against the gemstones so it keeps the necklace tight. So this is our necklace that we made in another video. So you can see all the beads are nice and tight, they've just got no movement. So when you can get your knots nice and tight and they're up against the bead, that is the result. So with knotting, you're really only limited by your imagination. You can make any combination, you can make any different type. These are all amber teething necklaces, so they all have a little plastic screw clasp. So that's it there. Knotting is used in a lot of different types of jewellery, so amber teething necklaces and also pearls are often knotted, and then just gemstone jewellery as well. So you can see here this bracelet here that I made in a different video. Then we made a rainbow chakra necklace as well. So they're both made with the same knotting technique and the plastic screw clasp. So to start off with, you want to choose some of your elements of your design. So you've got your thread colour, your clasp colour, and then your gemstones or amber that you're going to use. So today I'm going to make a beautiful necklace with apatite beads and a honey amber colour, and then the plastic screw clasp as well. So because I've got the aqua colour beads, I'm going to choose the aqua colour thread, and that will make the colour from the gemstones pop. Then I've got my apatite beads and my amber that I'm going to choose, which is this honey amber here. So then I have a look at the clasps as well. So you want to choose a clasp that matches the colour of your beads that you've got. So you can see they come in a 3-part clasp, so it's a left and right and then a centre screw as well. Now I'm going to use this light yellow clasp today because it blends in with my design. They come in all different colours as well, depending on what colour necklace you're making. You can choose a clasp that blends in. Now we have our thread colour chosen and our clasp and gemstone and amber beads. We're going to move on and just get our tools ready. So I've got a nice long ruler here. It's good to have one that's at least the length of your design that you're making. So we've got some scissors, our knotting tool, which is sometimes called a beading awl, sort of like a needle but not quite as sharp on the end. Then we've got our jewellery glue, which is the hypo cement, a bead reamer, and we've got a beading tray as well. It's not necessary, but it's helpful so that you can lay your beads out on the beading board. That's the next step, is to lay out our design onto our beading board. I'll just put my honey amber up the top there, lay it out, and then I'll grab my other bead, which is apatite, and just place them in to the order that I'd like. You can have a look and see how your design's going to look, and also just make sure you've got your order correct. So I'm just sliding it along and placing 2 apatite beads and then 2 amber beads. I like to do enough to make the whole necklace. Just here while it's on the beading board. It's very easy to place the wrong bead in the wrong position if you don't have it laid out and just grab the next one as you're going. I've done it plenty of times and generally it will wreck the whole necklace if you don't realise straight away. So I've learnt from experience it's just best to take your time and lay your design out properly at the start. Then you know exactly what you're doing. So once your whole design is laid out on the beading board for however long you're going to make a necklace, just want to double check it the whole way along. Just make sure you've got your design exactly in the order that you want it. And now we'll move on to making our clasp and thread. So you need to know exactly what length necklace you're going to make before you cut your thread. And we've got our clasp there as well. So for the first half of it, we just use 1/2 of the coloured part of the clasp. And then our thread we're going to use, so whatever length of necklace you're going to make, you need to use double the thread plus 10 centimetres. So I'm making a 12-inch necklace today, so I'm going to use 12 and then another 12 and then add an extra 10 centimetres as well. So that just gives you some extra thread there for if it frays, and also so that you've got some decent thread to hold at the end when you put the end clasp on. Now once you've cut your thread, you want to make a little knot right at the very end of it, and that is going to go inside your plastic screw clasp. So just make a little simple knot right at the end and pull it tight. Then you can just cut the little end length off if you need to. Just probably having 2 or 3 millimeters there will be fine, so that it will sit inside the little plastic screw clasp. So we're going to start off by threading the end of the thread without the knot into the inside of one end of the screw clasp. So see there, it's going into the inside and then just pulling it out the back. So just pull it through until the knot is almost inside the screw clasp. Then we're going to grab our jewellery glue and just pop some onto the knot. So just place some on each side of the knot so it's sort of right around it. Pop the lid back on your jewellery glue and then pull the thread inside the screw clasp. So pull it tight, and then we're going to do our first knot as well. So we wrap it around our finger and then pull the tail through the knot. So this is just a simple knot. So it's a really basic knot. So in your left hand, I like to hold that down onto the table. And then with our right hand, grab our knotting tool and just place it into the knot in the back. So just place it into the back of the knot. And then with your left hand, you're going to pull the tail of the thread so it pulls the knot up close towards the beading clasp. So then we're going to remove our knotting tool, take it around the other side of the knot and just push that little loop there, and then with our fingernail just make sure it's nice and tight. So I'm going to do this a few times for you so that you can see it nice and slowly. But that is our clasp, and it's secured on there with our first knot. So because our clasp is a nice light colour, it matches up with the amber colour. So I will start now with a gemstone bead, and that will help the clasp to blend in. So threading our next bead on there, we're going to start with another knot. So just wrapping it around your finger and pulling the tail through. Then we place our knotting tool at the back of the knot and then pull it tight with our left hand. So just wiggling it up till it meets the bead. Then we remove our knotting tool, place it around the other side of the knot where that little loop is, and push it tight. And then with our fingernail just finish it off, make sure it's nice and tight. So with each bead that we place on, we want to make sure that we pull it nice and tight with our left hand as well, just before we tie that knot. So here we are doing another one, placing our knotting tool inside, pulling it nice and tight. Then on the other side, push it, and then with our nail finishing it off. Sometimes the holes drilled in Baltic Amber are not as clean cut as gemstones. So if you find you can't get your thread through easily, you can use a cool little tool which is called a bead reamer. So it's sort of like sandpaper on a stick or like a fine point file. So that just helps to clear the way. You can poke it through. It's got a nice slim end on it and you can poke it through both sides. And then you should find your thread goes through nice and easily. So just pulling the bead on nice and tight, then we wrap the thread around our finger and pull it through to make this simple knot. Then we place our knotting tool in the right hand side of the knot and pull it with our left hand. Just wiggling it up to the bead, remove your knotting tool and place it in the other side of the knot and pull. And then push it with your nail. So really the focus is on trying to make sure your knots are nice and tight and right up against each bead. It's really important that when someone wears the necklace, it's not going to stretch and get longer and fall out sort of as the knots get tighter. Knotting is just such a good technique for protecting each gemstone as well, because they've got a knot in between each bead. They don't rub up against each other. And also it's a lot safer if you've got a child wearing a necklace and it does happen to break, you're only going to lose one bead. So that makes it a lot safer for children and young ones wearing them. And also so you don't lose all your beads if they do happen to fly off. So around the finger, pull the tail out, knotting tool in the right hand side of the knot and pulling it with your left. Wiggle it nice and tight and then remove your knotting tool and place it in the little loop at the top. Just to push it tight and then finish it off with your fingernail. Now we just continue on until your desired length for your necklace. So in this case today I'm making a 12-inch. Okay, so now our knotted necklace is the length that we wanted it, which is 12 inches long. So we're going to place our plastic screw clasp on now, the other end of it. So just with the other coloured end of the clasp, we're going to push the thread through the back side of it this time. There's a tiny hole in the back, so we just place it through there. And then pull it down tight just like it's a bead. Pull it onto that knot there Now you see why it's good to have a little bit of extra thread, because we need to hold on to it really nice and tight with our left hand. And then we'll grab our jewellery glue and we're going to place it down inside the screw clasp. So just with the little needle point on the glue, you want to poke it right down inside the clasp and then just run it up the thread of the screw that's inside there. And just on both sides of the thread of the cotton. Just make sure there's some glue up both sides. Pop your lid back on. And then while holding it really securely with your left hand, just grab the inner screw for the plastic screw clasp and just gently twist it in. So the trick is though to make sure you've got a really good grip with your left hand so that that thread's not going to slide in. You want to make sure you're able to screw that inner screw in without losing any thread out the back, because then you would have a gap there. So you want it nice and close, just like all the other knots are on the whole necklace. So really important that you're holding it nice and tight. And so once it's screwed in, it should be quite secure and that thread won't be going anywhere either. So I normally leave this for a couple of hours at least, or overnight, just so that that glue can dry. I won't screw it in or anything, I'll just leave it. But I'll show you just now cutting this little tail off. So just really nice and close to the clasp. You want to cut it as close as you can get. Just gently. And then when that's dry, that'll be ready to screw together. And then you'll have your beautiful knotted necklace.